But I always struggle to see a world without the state. I'm not one of those people, but I know you're very critical, but I don't know your position on all of this.
I think the federal government's incompetent, evil, and should be abolished, particularly here in the United States. They're inefficient. It doesn't make anybody's lives better off. Again, it's a very centralized system with perverse incentives trying to control complex systems. And I just don't think that's viable, number one, or beneficial, number two. And I think we're seeing the products of that play out.
But state government,
Yeah, so that's why I think that the silver lining of COVID, the lockdowns, and everything that unfolded over the last two years is this reassertion of state autonomy and states' rights. Particularly Florida and Texas are the two most popular examples that people will get, but there were many other states across the United States that did not go along with federal government recommendations and mandates, and I think that's only going to continue moving forward. I think the federal government is completely bloated. I think we need to continue this trend of emboldening states and making it so we have a republic of autonomous states, which is what this country was supposed to be when it was founded, and got completely bastardized over the last 2.5 centuries.
How does that coordinate if you have no federal government? Don't you essentially just have 52 small federal governments?
50, and those, better competition.
But don't you have to have some kind of something that kind of centrally arranges, or is it just become 52 countries that you can?
Yeah, I think we should see a balkanization of everything. And again, information. That's the problem with the federal government. You have a bunch of individuals in a central location in D.C. who are so disconnected from the sources of information necessary to make educated decisions and correct decisions for localities. That literally doesn't make sense from an information dispersion perspective. Like they are literally so disconnected from, like, so you have somebody in some small town in Louisiana, they have a road that needs to be fixed, and or they have very specific healthcare problems in their local community that need certain remedies, and you have a broad brush from DC trying to basically solve this problem, not knowing like granular information on the ground. And I think the best people to make those decisions are that local community, that county, that state, that city, whatever it be. And I think we should be emboldening those entities at the grassroots level, and I think we'll get better results by that. Like people's tax dollars shouldn't be, like, half of them shouldn't be, like, a sane amount of tax revenue should not be directed to DC, where they just completely waste the money and enrich contractors and the war machine, with little benefit coming back to the little guy in a small town. Like, I think taxes, if there are going to be taxes, should be insulated to your local community, your state at the highest level.
You're not anti-tax?
I think, yeah, I mean, I am, but like, I recognize if they are going to be levied, I would like them to be
at a local
insulated level, at the local level, at the state level.
And it's one step forward.
Yes.
Away from federal government. And it's one thing I really, like, I always talk about, I envy the US so much, that you have a republic, that you have states, you have that state. We don't have it. It doesn't matter whether you live in Cornwall in the south of England or you move to Manchester. It's exactly the same set of rules. There's no incentive locally for governance to improve.
Yeah.
You just don't have that.
And even to add to that, like, the local politicians have like no power in the UK. Like, very little happens on a local level.
And nobody cares. Like, I've never voted in a local election, ever. I've never. And if I have, I've only done it because I've gone to vote in the national election, and by virtue of that, I'm voting locally. But there's no interest. You don't care. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they're doing. It's not like here where you have Governor Abbott, very out there, very public, very vocal. You have a bunch of very vocal, high-profile people creating policy locally. We just don't have that. There's been a little bit of devolution across the UK, between Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and they have control over certain policy, like health policy or education policy, but it's very, very minuscule, and it's just shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's getting better here in the United States, but it's shit. I mean, just look at the goddamn State of the Union address that was given last night. Biden was calling Ukrainians, Uranians, and you had like Nancy Pelosi looking like a deranged clown rubbing it. Like, these are the people making decisions for 360 million or 330 million people across the U.S. It's literally, it feels like we're living in a Truman Show, like clown show. It's like, how have we gotten to a point where we wouldn't allow these people to drive cars?
Yeah.
Like, literally, like Biden would not be allowed to drive a car. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't be allowed to drive a car. And we're letting them run the country. And that's why you'll probably see it on Twitter and my newsletter. Like, I've been vehemently pushing, like, all right, we need to embolden states. And that's why I'm very happy Texas, Florida, Wyoming, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky, many other states have stood up the last 2 years and be like, we're not going along with this. Like, Florida, like, went so far as like Biden requested from Florida that they send up some of their state, like, Coast Guard soldiers or military men to go protect DC during the State of the Union. It's like, no, I'm not sending them up there for you. Like that. I want to see more of that. I want to see Bitcoin mining permanent funds in states that have rich energies, that have energy abundance and a lot of energy sources under their land. I think Wyoming, if you're watching, if you're listening, I've been trying to meme the Wyoming Bitcoin mining permanent fund. I think they should issue bonds take advantage of the low interest rate market, issue bonds, invest that money in mining infrastructure, tap open some orphan wells that exist, and then roll that some of that revenue into a Bitcoin permanent fund. You'll take advantage of Bitcoin's price appreciation, but then on top of that, you are empowered against the federal government, where the federal government holds a lot of its power over individual states by saying, oh, if you want money from the taxes that we've acquired this year, like, you have to do this, that, and the other. If you have a Bitcoin mining permanent fund, it allows you, number one, to lower state taxes, but number two, gives you leverage against the federal government, where it says, thanks, but no thanks. We're good.
Yeah.
And it's totally possible. Like, I think, like, and Bitcoiners may get like mad, like, are you telling the state to get into Bitcoin mining? I'm not saying the state, I'm saying individual states. I think it makes sense for them, and only if it's used for the public good to reduce taxes. In Wyoming, after Biden came in and immediately shut down new mineral leases on federal lands, which Wyoming has a lot of federal land, and that's where a lot of their oil and gas industry is focused. Biden came in day one, signed an order that didn't allow them to actually facilitate their oil and gas industry in the state, and it wiped out their tax revenue. And Wyoming's very conservative, and they were put in this position: do we raise taxes or do we fire teachers? And they were never going to raise taxes, so they fired a bunch of teachers. If they had a Bitcoin mining permanent fund, who's to say they would even have to be put in that situation?